Have you ever heard of the phenomenon called Fata Morgana? It's an optical illusion, kind of like a desert mirage. The most common form of it is typically seen on the surface of the ocean, making it look as if boats are hovering a few yards above the water, if seen from a distance during the proper conditions. But there's another version of Fata Morgana, which is much more rare. If you do a quick Google search for Fata Morgana cities, you'll find some very surreal images. You'll see pictures which show cities which seem to float high above us, perched precariously on the clouds like a modern Mount Olympus. The pictures look fake, but they are verified to be real. There's even video showing these same events. When bystanders noticed this optical illusion in China, and in other places, they gasped and whispered fearfully amongst themselves. Some even fainted or fell to their knees and prayed, thinking the apocalypse was upon them, that these were the angels of heaven and the cities of God coming to announce the end of days. But as always, those pesky scientists were there to say, "No, that isn't real. It's just an optical illusion." Fata Morgana, they called it. That was the official explanation for the cities in the sky, which disappeared just as quickly as they arrived. But those scientists didn't see it up close like we did. There's a whole plane full of people who will tell you the cities in the sky are real. They're not an illusion. I was on a trip to Asia when all of this happened. We were flying over Yangtze when suddenly something appeared in the clouds before our eyes. If not for the fact that I was looking out the window at that exact moment, I wouldn't have seen it. But it just so happens that I was awake and admiring the view when the city in the sky appeared. The buildings resting on the clouds were dark and shimmering, almost exact replicas of the city far down below. The only problem was, we shouldn't have been able to see them from where we were sitting. The optical illusion of Fata Morgana can't be viewed from within the image itself. It's like trying to find the end of a rainbow. It should have been impossible for us to see what we were seeing. But I wasn't alone. We all saw it. When I looked around the cabin of the airplane, I saw dozens of other passengers staring and pointing at the city in the sky as we flew through its mysterious borders, entering the surreal space that shouldn't exist. And then people began to scream. The airplane suddenly tilted half sideways as the pilot steered to quickly avoid something. I imagined a building shimmering and materializing in front of the plane at the last second, like a mountain coming into focus during a snowstorm. Everyone on the packed airplane began to scream after that, as the overhead luggage broke free from the compartments and began to rain down, injuring several passengers. A woman who had been sitting across the aisle from me fell down hard onto the floor, and I tried to help her up. But then the plane's axis tilted again, and I was thrown hard into the window. I turned around and was startled to see a hairline crack forming across the glass. But then something even more terrifying caught my eye. Outside, there were creatures flying in the air. They looked like pterodactyls soaring between the massive black buildings. One of them landed on the wing, causing the craft to tilt and veer off course. People screamed and shouted as they were thrown from their seats, and luggage came crashing down from the overhead compartments once again, emptying them of whatever was left inside. The creature on the wing of the plane began to skitter crawl towards my window, and I saw its eyes were hollow black sockets. Its maw was like a giant beak made of shadow, full of liquid black teeth. It scrambled rapidly across the wing, heading in my direction, and I could have sworn it was looking straight at me with its dead, empty eyes. That broke me out of my silent terror, and I started screaming, pointing at the windows as other passengers turned to look. Soon there was a small crowd forming around my seat, staring out the window at the horrible thing on the wing, as it approached the glass and began to scratch and claw and bash its face against the window. I had never seen anything so desperate and insane, as if it had no purpose except to attack and to maim. A few seconds later, there were more of them, fighting with each other as they tried to get in. I saw they had long tails with triangle-shaped points at the end, like demons sent from hell. I realized maybe that's what they were. Had we died in a fiery explosion without any of us realizing it? Was this just a grim, horrible afterlife which we were now destined to reside within for eternity? No. I refuse to believe that. I refuse to give myself to this place. I shook off that horrible idea and glanced back out the window, hoping it had changed and we were back on Earth again in the real world. But no. The shimmering black buildings outside were so close now that I felt like I could see inside of them, if not for the fact that they were opaque. Whatever was inside was not meant to be seen by us, and I realized that was probably for the best. If these creatures were the birds of this hellish mirror world, I was scared to see what their people might look like. I began to suspect that we had crossed over into an alternate dimension somehow, and I wasn't sure if we would ever be able to escape. Was this what happened to mysterious planes that went missing in the skies, over the Bermuda Triangle and in a handful of other places? I had heard of those events, but like everyone else, I just assumed they were planes with mechanical failures, or drunk and irresponsible pilots sleeping at the wheel. Turbulence and stormy weather, birds sucked into the engines, or hurricanes with hail the size of golf balls. There were 1,000 potential reasons for a plane to go down. Who would have thought that cities in the sky could be responsible? I was snapped from my thoughts as suddenly the glass shattered, and the plane lost cabin pressure. Alarms were suddenly blaring and the lights were flickering in the cabin as oxygen masks fell from the ceiling. People grabbed for them desperately as the creature began to squeeze its way into the plane through the window, like a cat going through a chain-link fence when it squeezed in its gut, and its wings flattened down as it began to claw and scratch its way inside. Meanwhile, I was still desperately trying to snag one of the available oxygen masks. Since most people had been thrown from their seats, myself included, that was no easy task. The wind was rushing and whipping throughout the cabin, making it difficult to do much of anything on the packed flight. I scrambled over to a nearby seat and reached for one available mask, just as an older man was about to take it for himself. I left it for him without a second thought. The other ones nearby were also being used, I saw, and began to quickly panic. Looking around desperately, the air becoming too thin to breathe, I finally spotted a handful of unused oxygen masks near the front of the economy section. I was halfway towards the back of the plane, and there were people in the aisles blocking my path, but I knew I had to get up there. Like a game of high-stakes musical chairs, there were only so many oxygen masks to go around on this packed flight, and I was seriously at risk of being the only one left standing when the music stopped. Lurching around, I stumbled over injured people lying in the aisles, stepping over them awkwardly and feeling dizzy from lack of oxygen. I looked back to see the creature was inside the plane now, and for some reason it had its dead eyes fixed on me. It raced toward me, its horrible limbs leaving black, inky stains on the seats as it raked them with its claws. The world was spinning, and I was getting a terrible headache as my breathing quickened, my lungs desperate for air. I fell over, unable to keep my balance, and began to crawl towards the front of the plane, my vision fading in and out. At one point I must have blacked out because I woke up to find the thing on top of me, snapping its liquid black jaws inches from my face. Screaming, I reached up to push it away, only to find that my hands sunk into the thing like molasses. It was tenacious and sticky, binding to my skin and refusing to let go. "Die, you fucking hellspawn!" a man's muffled voice yelled, and I looked up to see a man wearing an oxygen mask, holding a heavy-looking piece of luggage over his head with both hands. He threw it at the creature, and I recoiled, worried that it would crash right through the oily black creature and it would land on me. The heavy suitcase did just what I expected, and slammed into the thing, splashing it in every direction like a water balloon being destroyed by a sledgehammer. The luggage landed on my gut, knocking the wind out of me and fracturing 3 ribs in the process. But luckily for us, it took care of the creature. I was still covered in its sticky black goo, but at least it wasn't trying to eat me anymore. And for that, I was grateful. I stood up on shaky legs to thank the man for saving me, then doubled over in pain. My ribs were screaming at me with each breath, and my vision was swimming in darkness from a total lack of oxygen. The contents of the plane were still whipping around in the air as the alarm sounded, and I heard the captain saying something about an emergency landing. But then everything went dark, and I passed out again, this time staying unconscious until after we landed. I woke up in a Chinese hospital. According to the official reports, none of what I've told you actually happened. They covered the whole thing up, as if it never happened. We tried to tell them the truth. Me and several of the other passengers have kept in touch over the years, and we've all tried to get our story out there. Unfortunately, no one believes us. The official reports contradict us at every step. The media won't even listen to our story. They call us conspiracy nuts. And I can't really blame them. It was just Fata Morgana, they tell us. It was Fata Morgana, and nothing more. But I know what I saw. I know where we've been. Hell is real. And it's waiting for us in the clouds. The story you just heard was written by me, and a variation of it previously featured on the Dr. Nosleep podcast and YouTube channel. If you'd like to check out their channel for more content, please check out the description below. Become a channel member today for early access to videos and special emojis only available to members. Check out the description below or click the join button for more info. Today's video was supported by patrons like Mark from Earth, Crimson Muse, Joy Burton, Diane Showers, Mark Sawall, Cheryl James, Pick Your Sticker, Teddy Dog, Clue 404, Mama Cotto, Dante Kincaid, Zarin Ray, Angela Donovan, Blarian50, Devin Kyle, Timothy Baird, Ajeti, Bert Turner, Bajani Espinal, Michael Pierce, Big Joe, Gary Harkonnen, LaDonna Spivey, Scott Tanaka, Tom Stewart, Sherman Davis, Bryce Shelton, Susan McClendon, Elise Batiste, Lisa and the Cult Jam, Open Circuit, Fabulavore, Raymond Jaggers, That Darn Fox, Raison Detra, Kai Gaming 99, Wendy Burns, The Wendigo, Michael Squishy Park, The Gemstar, Vault 77 Citizen, Puppy Dan, Clovis Wolf, Elder Gelm, Derek Prey, Elder Being, KC Hawaii, Rob T, Tragic Mermaid, Darren Fishnaller, Cloves Anoya Harris, Roe Underwood, Florida Man Luke, Bethany's Mom, Winter's Kiss, Sam Brook, The White Stag, Corgi Connection, No Name, Marta Cara, Professor Elm, Kathy Barrickman, Cybard Sands, Steve Hennessy, Melanie Sanders, The Archivist, Rob Smith, Term 4, Naz Razio. If you'd like to help support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon page at patreon.com/Jordan Grupe Horror. As a patron, you'll get access to bonus videos and content, as well as a Discord channel. You'll be credited at the end of every video going forward, and if you decide to stay for 3 months, I'll name a character after you which will be featured in a Hollow's End story. Links to join the Patreon are in the description. Thanks to everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment to help the channel to continue to grow. Really does help out a lot. And see you again next time at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you have a great night.